Thank you, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it. We're going to do lots on policy and politics later on, but I wanted to start by talking about the business environment in which we operate the plants. We have 104 plants operating today. They are operating at near record capacity, over 90%, about 92% capacity factors. They're generating a lot of electricity. They are one of the lowest cost producers of electricity. And so it's that tremendously successful operation of the plants over the last several years that is the basis for everything we do. Right? The performance of those plants, particularly the economic performance, is what is the basis for determination as to whether people are going to build new plants here and around the world going forward. The business environment is a principal driver in what the future of nuclear energy is in the United States. So we'll talk about policies and politics, but keep in mind that one of the largest drivers is electricity demand. How long is the recession going to last? What impact is that going to have on the overall economy? When are we going to see demand forecasts pick up? And then also keep in mind that nuclear is a very long lead industry. Right? We expect licenses from the NRC in 2012 for reactors that will go online before 2020. Mind you, we stand by our forecast of 4 to 8 new reactors online by 2020. Beyond 2020, there are a lot of variables that go into it. What are the future natural gas prices? Are there carbon costs? What does the electricity demand forecast look like? But the decisions that we make today are based upon a 40-year license for a reactor, which may be extended out to 60 years. So our member companies are trying to understand what the business environment is going to look like over that sort of time frame. So there are lots of questions about near-term issues. Did Tuesday's election make a difference? Yes, and it did in some very specific ways, and we can talk about those. But keep in mind that we're looking at this as a 20-year and a 40-year phenomena. So we have a very long-range perspective. So let me talk a little bit about the topic today, the politics of the election and nuclear energy. We have seen a substantial increase in the support for nuclear energy in the last several years. There's been this strong call for building more reactors by some of the Republicans, the Senator Alexander proposals and others. And at the same time, I remember we were here 2 years ago talking about what would the Obama administration bring to the table. And the results have been quite extraordinary, beginning with his statement supporting nuclear energy in the State of the Union. And you may recall that got a wide-ranging applause at the State of the Union, and then moving forward with a loan guarantee on the Vogtle reactor and now the loan guarantee for the Eagle Rock Enrichment Plant in Idaho. This administration has followed through with a commitment to nuclear energy, and that has changed some of the politics with Democrats. We've seen a lot of support from traditional Democratic constituencies like organized labor. We're seeing a reconsideration of the attributes of nuclear energy among some in the environmental community. And that has brought with it this broadening base of support amongst Democrats. So, for example, some of our strongest supporters in the House are Mr. Hoyer and Mr. Clyburn, the current Democratic majority leader, and we'll let others speculate what his position will be in the upcoming Congress. But we've seen the same thing in the Senate with Senators Carper and Bingaman and increasingly the Warners and Udalls in the Senate coming along and being very strong supporters. So we find ourselves now with this broad base of political support in both parties. I thought it was tremendously both helpful but also indicative of the times that in their talks immediately after the election, which relatively short talks in which they talked about the consequences of the election and the opportunities going forward, the President, Mr. Boehner, Senator McConnell all mentioned nuclear energy. That is because nuclear energy is now centered at the center of the political spectrum, at the center of the debate about energy policy going forward in this country. We do believe that it is the middle ground on which both parties can compromise, and if we're going to pursue energy legislation, is one of the foundation elements in that policy going forward. It brings a lot of support, certainly from Republicans, but also from Democrats concerned about the environment, about energy security, support from organized labor. It is the sort of component of an energy policy on which that it can serve as the foundation for energy policy going forward. So there are a lot of specific issues. I don't want to go much longer than that, but we can just turn it over and ask any questions that you may have about the impacts of the election and how we see things going forward. Okay.
Siobhan?
Please.
What about
funding with deficits, with the Tea Party being a bigger component of the political power? Is there money to fund more nuclear reactors?
Well, the real issue is, will the current programs be implemented effectively? So the loan guarantee program, for example, which is from the 2005 Energy Policy Act, we've had frustrations with the implementation of that program. But the loan volumes have been provided, even if you look at the amount that's been provided to date, and certainly the President's request for additional funding that's pending before the Congress. The issue for us right now is, can the administration, can DOE working in conjunction with OMB effectively implement that program? And so it's not a big policy decision. It really is a question of, can OMB affect that program successfully? We've seen limited success with the Vogtle reactor, with Eagle Rock Enrichment Plant, but clearly there is frustration that others are experiencing with that program. Specifically, there's been a lot of discussion about how OMB is estimating credit subsidy costs for new reactors. I understand why OMB has this portfolio approach where they assign certain fixed assumptions to loan guarantee applications. Where they have managed large numbers of low-dollar loan guarantee applications, that makes sense, where they're considering a portfolio. Nuclear loan guarantee applications are each unique, and the numbers are sufficiently large that we think each application needs to be evaluated individually. It's a different approach than OMB has been taking to date, but if we could get that affected, we think that program would be much more effective going forward.
Can I follow up on that?
Please.
So I've heard view that the industry want to use either the budget bill as a vehicle, either in the lame duck session or early next year, to have Congress add instructional language to, as you said, change the loan guarantee credit subsidy fee. Is that what you guys are working on?
Yes, we have some proposed technical corrections to the Title 17 loan guarantee provisions that we have talked to members up on the Hill about, and we are looking for opportunities to get those implemented. Mind you, we're doing it in conjunction with other clean energy technologies, so these are not nuclear specific, but we are seeking an opportunity, and we'll be glad to share with you the specifics of what we're looking for, if you're interested. Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about a clean energy standard
Yeah.
as opposed to a renewable energy standard. What would a clean energy standard look to you guys?
Well, I think a clean energy standard is most likely going to be an important part of the discussion going forward. If renewable energy standard is expanded into clean energy standard, we do believe that the technologies have to be evaluated based upon their ability to contribute to what the objectives are. How clean are they? And as a result, we need to expand the numbers of the suite of technologies that qualify for a clean energy standard. But I'm not quite sure how that's going to unfold going forward, and so the details are something that we're going to have to see later in the process.
Can I follow up on that as well? Senator Bingaman, chairman
Yes.
of the Energy Committee, has been quite unequivocal, saying that he wants a renewable energy portfolio, not a clean energy. Nuclear is not renewable. So if the chairman is not on board, I don't see a way to succeed. What's your strategy?
I'm very respectful of Senator Bingaman's views on that issue, and he's had a great deal of influence on that issue, and yet that proposal has not been able to progress through the Senate and certainly not through the Congress as a whole. What we're looking to understand is what proposal could get all the way through the Congress and what could eventually end up on the President's desk. And given a variety of different interests, I think if a portfolio standard is going to make more progress, they will need to expand the number of technologies that are eligible.
Margie?
Can you tell me what your aim is for the lame duck and what chances you think there are of getting any provisions that you're looking for here?
This is not a flippant answer, but no, I can't tell you what the chances are for anything in the lame duck.
Well, what's your aim anyway?
Well, the issues that we're concerned about are in the appropriations bill. So it's the enactment of the FY appropriations bills. And we've got all sorts of issues associated with the DOE funding levels. We would like to see some corrections made to the loan guarantee program. There is one interesting provision that we're pursuing. Currently, unlike FERC, at the end of their term, NRC commissioners have to leave the commission even if their nomination is pending before the Senate. We saw this with Commissioner McGaffigan, who actually had to leave the commission at the end of his term for several weeks until his nomination could be voted on. NRC terms end on June 30th of every year, and we're interested in trying to get that changed so that, like FERC commissioners, they can continue to serve until the end of that term of Congress while their nomination is pending. So there are a few things because the appropriations bills are one of the last things that have to get resolved, we are looking at, and we've talked to the staff up there about those issues. But there's a myriad of them. I mean, it's everything that's in the Energy and Water Appropriations Bill that affects the industry, from NRC funding to the nuclear R&D programs, the works.
Well, what are your priorities then?
Well, we have a whole list of priorities on funding issues in particular, and we have the technical corrections to Title 17, and we are trying to address the NRC Commission terms.
Where do the technical corrections go? I mean, in link up, where do you want to have technical corrections as well as the changes to the commission terms?
Well, we have gone in and met with the staff and proposed all of those issues, and we're trying to determine if there's an openness to doing them in continuing resolution or an omnibus appropriations bill or separate bills, whatever happens, whatever comes out of this process.
Is there anybody on board for an amendment or something?
I should let them speak for themselves. I mean, we've gone in and met with people and proposed language, and in advance of the election, they were sort of, thank you for coming in, we've got you, we hear what you're interested in, don't know how the process is going to unfold, let's keep talking.
Okay.
So.
And what about the Yucca CR issue over at NRC? It's going to be very interesting to watch to see how the appropriators handle that issue. But our view is that the appropriators are going to have to resolve that issue. Certainly we've seen the letter that the House appropriators sent to the Commission, but the real issue for us is what is the effect of the appropriators' interest in this? Are they going to do something in appropriations on this issue? And we're going to await the outcome of that. So you're not lobbying either way for
No,
anything?
we're not.
So just on Yucca, it sounds like, from you and from other industry sources talk with, that this is not a fight you guys are going to take on Yucca, but you're focusing on new reactors. Is that?
Well, our interests in Yucca Mountain are very straightforward. We want the NRC to continue to consider the DOE's license application. That is an issue that the NRC is wrestling with right now. We would like to have the NRC reach a conclusion on whether or not DOE has the right to withdraw the license application. But that issue itself is already before the courts and is going to get resolved in the courts. So that's the forum where that issue is going to be resolved, and we'll wait to see the outcome of that proceeding.
Do you, the fact that waste management is up in the air, is that going to act as a drag in any way on the debate in the next Congress about advancing nuclear? And do you see, with the new math on the Hill, do you see any efforts to kind of reopen that issue?
Well, actually, I disagree with waste being up in the air. I think waste is actually a very stable situation right now, right? We store used fuel on site at the plants. We will do so for a long period of time. We would like to move to interim storage. We believe the DOE should do research on advanced fuel cycles, and eventually we'll need a geologic repository. The way in which we're going to make progress is we're going to wait to see what the Blue Ribbon Commission's recommendations are. We expect a draft of that report in May, a final report at the end of the year. And then the issue is, and we'll have to decide what our position is when we see the Blue Ribbon Commission's recommendations, is do those recommendations then result in legislation that changes the Nuclear Waste Policy Act? And that's when this issue is really going to be enjoined. Or we're really going to engage on this. When we can evaluate the recommendations the Blue Ribbon Commission makes, that's when we'll be up talking to people on the Hill about what we think about those recommendations and about what they think about whether they want to amend the Nuclear Waste Policy Act.